All right, you should be able to see it online. Okay. You want to share on the page and share on yours? There's the water fast. See if Joel gets on there with any Satan comments. He did so, like, he was some post like, I feel the greatest I've felt in a long time. And I was the first one on there. I was just like, put Satan, and then Jonathan got on there 2 seconds later and wrote Puto. Like, dude, you're gonna get. Everyone's gonna talk trash to you. So, Tijuana's now home, right? Chivas is playing at home. So Toluca did that on the road.
Yep. So
that's disturbing. They're out.
Basically.
Because I mean, that was just, the only thing the Reales is going for them was
the only way it'll.
So I'm circling who the home teams for this week when they're home.
The only way it'll work if Santos goes and scores 3-0, and even then that only ties it up. So then that wouldn't work.
Okay.
This would work. Has to be 3-0 today, but they can't let Tigres score whatsoever. So I mean,
you got it on both now.
Yeah.
I just pull it up on one of them so we can see if other people are watching.
Someone's watching. How was me? Yeah.
Let me see if it's on there. Start in a second. And then, switches around.
These are the only close games that anybody can take.
Yeah. We're up to 19 points now. Number one in the West, second in the league. That's the only team that's beat us because overall recently, win, loss, win, win. All the wins home, lost away. That's the current. I had to update it. Torres is 8-5-4. Alex is 6 assists. He's one of the league leaders. They got Philadelphia. And actually, I was wrong. These are all away games. It's all at. Because if I'm looking at it right. Yeah, because they were home the last 2. Away, and then they get a home game. And then away again. They got a brutal schedule coming up.
Should they have to play in Seattle?
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And by the time you get to that point, you're gonna be over. We're almost to the 3rd mark by that Dallas game. At the end of that Dallas game, we'll be a 3rd through the season. So, all right.
And then we got Champions League June 3rd.
You got anybody else who started?
I don't know. Somebody's on that one.
Okay.
I don't know if it's one of your friends or something.
Okay. And then, yeah, so they have Sevilla and Malaga, and then Barca has Las Palmas and Eibar. And then this is a 3-point difference here. Monaco they all have crappy teams, but I think Monaco will have an unlock unless they just trip.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we'll start real fast.
You want to start with one of these first before we do that? Because last time we started that.
You're gonna do that in the middle.
Yeah, we'll do that in the middle. So
Do this first.
yeah, let's cover that first.
That's
all right.
what's going on right now.
Yeah.
All right then. All right, everybody, I'd like to welcome you to our 4th episode of Texas Soccer Live. Thank you for those of you that joined us on Wednesday. We did our playoff schedule. We got a lot of feedback from y'all. And we are going to get into all those games that happened Wednesday and Thursday because I think there were some shockers, and we'll get to that later on. But I'm going to have to eat some humble pie here because my co-host Raul was right on all 4 accounts, and I only got 1. So we'll talk about that because the next leg of all those matches are this weekend, starting tonight and tomorrow. So we will have our final 4 for Liga MX come Sunday night. So we'll get into that. First, though, we wanted to also we're going to look at Champions League and some of the Euro Leagues are going on. There's some great action going on this weekend in Europe, and there are actually some not so close title matches that have already been decided, and there's some very close title matches. And then last time I mentioned we wanted to talk about Houston Dynamo, who are currently on fire at home, and at least for the time being, until the other MLS games play this week, They are currently number 1 in the Western Conference, number 2 overall in the league. So they're on a hot streak. So as I said before, we're going to keep it more short to the point. Real focus. We should be about like 30 minutes or so. That's our goal. It'd bring you a shorter, just more kind of to the point show. If you like that, we got a lot of good feedback from the playoff special. Keep giving us feedback. What's up? This is also going to be our last episode for a while, probably until June. Well, we're going to wait till we get closer to the World Cup qualifiers. The Champions League final game will be on June 3rd. So we'll probably not come to you again until sometime in June. All right, let's hop into it. Champions League. We mentioned last time we're not surprised by the winners of those last matchups, who's going in. I do think we have some interesting drama I was just reading about with Juventus going into the final against Real Madrid. And for me, like I said, it's hard to bet against Real Madrid. They're the record holder in the Champions League, the number of titles. They're in top form right now. And Juventus, if you haven't been aware, took a pretty big blow, losing Khedira, possibly for the Champions League final, and he's been a major contributor on that team. So it's tough. I said in the last episode, I see it come down to Juventus defense and Real Madrid's offense. I don't want to switch my pick. I'm not one of those guys. I'm going to actually stick with, I think Juventus could grind it out. But man, I'm probably going to, I don't feel good about it now, because if they don't have Khedira, they have a lot of capable guys on that squad, but I don't like losing key pieces at the minute. I mean, yes, you might have some talent on your roster, but to when you get things rolling, as a team, it's hard to make. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'm still gonna stick with Juventus because I feel like they have the ability to beat Real Madrid, but the only thing is that they lost Khedira. And I know Khedira did not want to miss that game just for the fact that he used to play with Real Madrid. So, it's going to suck for him, but I feel like Juventus has the power to get through it. But it's not going to be as easy as they thought it was, because losing that one person makes a big difference. Because now you have to make big changes to your lineup, and just they had everything rolling with the starting lineup that they had. And they were used to it for the beginning of Champions League, but now when it comes to like the most important game, they lost to one person. So hopefully it doesn't cause that much of a transition, and they're gonna have some problems. And hopefully it's not that bad of an injury for Khedira. Maybe it's possible that he may be able to come and play Champions League, but hopefully it's not that bad and he's able to come and play the game. But I'm gonna stick with Juventus on this one, and I'm gonna hope that they pull through and win the Champions League.
Mm-hmm. And what's also interesting, I don't know if I was reading this, is it definitely hasn't caused any lack of luster to the final. It's being played in Wales, and the finals is in Cardiff. And I was reading something that the ticket prices have just gotten outrageous. We're talking. Don't try and get a ticket in that stadium unless you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands. We're talking probably some of the numbers I was seeing were basically 10 times what you would get for a Super Bowl ticket, here. So it's definitely going to be quite the match. And even though none of the English teams or none of the Premier League teams made it, you better believe that stadium in Cardiff's going to be nuts. And I think that's also an interesting point. I think, remember, we've taken out home field to this.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing, that this is not even we're not even in each other's countries, let alone each other's cities now. You are in a completely neutral territory. I'd be interested to see. I do think in England there's going to be a little bit more of a following for Real, but I do say that it'll be a lot more even had we, it's a one game, it's not multiple legs. We're not going to be going to home fields, so I do think that takes a little edge off, possibly for some guys. We'll see how it goes. Other thing we wanted to mention before we went through things is that a couple of the European leagues are already pretty much set. Chelsea has clinched the Premier League, is going to be champions again. Juventus, barring some catastrophe, is pretty much clinched the Serie A in Italy. Bayern Munich, as we mentioned last time, had already clinched in the Bundesliga. So not a surprise. None of those teams have been dominant for several years now. The two races that you have developing, though, in these final two games, this week and next week, are in La Liga and in League One. I'd say less so in League One. You have Monaco with 86 points, PSG. I say Monaco is going to win it, especially now they have everything to lose now, being out of the Champions League. they'd have to really screw up, and PSG would have to be on top game. But PSG would have to win both games, and Monaco would have to collapse on both of them for it to come down to that. The interesting one, I want to get your take. I'll let you go first on this, is La Liga. We've had a close match all year. It always is. We are currently tied at 84. Barca's up on the goal differential, I think pretty big. But how do you see, based on both these? I mean, they all have winnable games coming up. But, I mean, I personally think Barca's going to stick with it and is going to get another La Liga title.
The way I see it, although during the season we have seen Real Madrid and Barcelona fall to some of the weakest teams in that league, so yeah. I think they should be careful with that. But they both have winnable games, except for Real Madrid. They do have one game, which is against Sevilla, which is number 4 team, and on top of that, they're a pretty good, strong team. So I feel like that's going to be one of Real Madrid's challenges. If they can win that game, they'll be good. But I doubt that they'll win by more than 4 goals. It'll be hard to do.
Well, and the big thing is, I mean, right now, there's no question. If it comes down to goal differential, Barcelona's almost an automatic win because Barcelona has a plus 74 goal differential. They've only had, they're 108 for and 34 against goals. So that's a plus 74, which is ridiculous. And put in perspective, Real Madrid, who's going to be in the Champions League final, has a plus 57 goal differential. So you look at that difference there, that's 17 goals. I don't care if you're Real Madrid, you're not going to make up 17 goals. So the point is, for Real Madrid, the only way to win is to win on points.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. You're going to have to pray that Barcelona does not win these last 2 games, because for Barcelona, they have 2 very easy games to where they can rack up multiple goals. So Real Madrid has to pray that that Barcelona will lose, and I feel like they're going to be more focused on Barcelona losing those games than Real Madrid winning them, because as soon as if Barcelona falls 1 game, then they're going to hope and pray that Real Madrid can pull those 2 games, and they'll be basically if as soon as Barcelona, if they were to lose 1 game and Real Madrid wins 1, then basically that's it, because Barcelona falls and then Real Madrid moves up.
Well, and I'm trying to look back here, and I know that Barcelona in the final game, which is the Las Palmas today, and I thought they had dropped to one of those teams earlier in the season when they played them the first time. Like you said, Barcelona has a track record of they've had some mysterious losses to teams that on paper you're like they should beat the crap out of them, and they don't. Going back to March, I mean, Deportivo, Malaga, who's going to play Real, which should be an easy win, blanked Barcelona 2-0. That's what we were wondering what was going on with them in the middle of the Champions League fight. So, Barcelona has made some, had some mysterious falls. So it's not shown. But like I said, the reason I think it's you have to go with Barcelona is that worst case scenario, like I said, if it comes down to goals, they got it. So. But like I said, there's still a shot. They drop a game. They drop 1 game, and Real can both. It's done. Do you differ at all when it comes to League One? I mean, I don't see how Monaco's going to lose that. I mean, they'd have to lose both games.
I think Monaco will take it, but I mean, it's going to be Monaco has to fall completely. Like something bad has to happen, like red cards, or maybe their team is just out of focus for these last games, and then they're going to fall. And then PSG has to be on top of their game in order to win. But I'm going to stick with Monaco to take it, because, I mean, they've been good this whole year. Especially, they did what they had to do in Champions League, but now that they're not in it, I mean, now they should have all their focus on League One to win the championship. So hopefully they can stick and win it.
Well, and also, in all these teams, what people don't realize is that it's not like these other teams, now that they know they haven't won, they have nothing to play for. I mean, we're just talking about in the Premier League right now. Yeah, Chelsea won, for example, but these other teams are playing for Champions League spots, fighting against relegation at the bottom. And so you think you're going to come up against some of these teams that are at the bottom of your league and think that they're going to just, throw it in because, they'd love to be the spoiler. They'd love to be the spoiler, to be the ones that stick it to you as the top team. Secondly, they're legitimately fighting for not to be relegated. We saw that in Liga MX. You got the best. I mean, those bottom teams brought it. And even with Chiapas, we talked about even bringing it, they still got, relegated.
Yeah.
So you better believe that they're going to bring it, and it's going to be interesting. And we'll talk about it next episode. I'm looking forward to, once these leagues wrap up, we're going to start to get the field for next year's Champions League. That's something we'll talk about this summer. And a lot of these, then we're going to finally see a lot of these players are going to go on international type break and be able to go with their national teams. And we're going to get an early preview coming up here of the squads are going to start forming for the World Cup. We're only a year away, ladies and gentlemen. We're a year away. A year from now, we're going to be on the eve of 2018 in Russia. So people are going to start looking at that. Okay, let's get into the part of the episode of where I have to basically say I was wrong, my predictions were terrible, and I don't know where to begin. So you remember last time we made some predictions. The only prediction we agreed on was that number 8 Monarcas was going to stick it to number 1 Tijuana, because we're convinced Tijuana is a fluke every year when they're number 1. And we were right. They won 1-0 at home. Still a close game. The other match that we predicted was against Atlas and Chivas. I took Chivas as being the perennial, more favored team. They're the higher seed. They have a lot to play for, and they just couldn't get any offense going. What a surprise! With that being said, they held Atlas to 1 goal, but once again, my buddy here picked Atlas and got that one. Then you had one of the most, and we'll come back to each one in a second. Then you had one of the most bizarre ones, and that was Toluca going into Santos' stadium and pinning 4 goals on them and doing a 4-1, effectively ending, and we'll talk about why for those of you who aren't aware, ending that series. They're almost dead in the water going into tonight. And then there was our game. The game that we see our 2 jerseys up here, every single one, every single match. And we watched it together. Ironically, we're able to watch it together. And I have to say, for my fellow Rayados fans out there, I don't have an answer for you. The question is this a really good Tigres team that we ran into? Or is it more so that Rayados just didn't come to play? The answer, quite frankly, in person, if I'm being honest with myself and with my fellow fans, is both. We talked about Tigres being hot coming into this, but and I'll get your opinion on it. But Rayados just did not. I mean, they look so as a fan, but also just not even if it wasn't my team. Even if I was trying to watch as a third person, they were so discombobulated. I mean, and the subs were bizarre. The fact that Cardona sat on the bench until maybe 11 minutes left, something like that, and then it boggled my mind as a fan of Monterrey, and I don't know what it is. They have is it a possible mountain to climb? Yes, but it is a mountain to climb this evening if we're going to get out of this matchup. So let's start with that match, and then we'll work our way through your thoughts on your Tigres kicking the ass of my Rayados.
Well, it was a good game. I do give them that. I do agree that Monterrey really didn't show up to play. I mean, they had a few key passes here and there, but it just wasn't working out for them. I don't know what's been going on with the coaching there. I don't know why he sat Cardona down for the completely first half, which I really don't make sense because he's the one he's racked up goals for them.
And he works well with Pabon.
Yeah, he works very well. And then in the end, he also took out Pavon, which I feel like he should have played the whole game. Yes, they did get an away goal, but not even a minute later, Tigres was able to score again, which left it to be 4-1.
Which completely changes it, right? Because we were watching the game saying, oh boy, this actually makes it interesting because, 3-1 with that one goal being a road goal, made it interesting going in the last match. Yeah, then it's unexplained to me, and this drives me nuts as personally as a coach. It's why you always hear everyone on the field trying to calm everybody down after celebration. Settle, let's go. It's a 0 game, new game. Well, these guys are over there still celebrating, I feel like, in the corner. And the game's already started. And like, we didn't know. We weren't ready for that 4th goal. You go from having a chance to make it a more winnable situation to, this shooting themselves.
I think it's going to be a very interesting second game. On behalf of my team, I feel like Tigres isn't done scoring. They aren't going to go score.
Guignac's not, that's for sure.
Yeah, Gignac is not done scoring. It's going to be very, very hard for Monterrey to keep Tigres on lockdown like that, because what Monterrey has to do is go out and attack. But since they're going to go out and attack, they're going to leave open spaces for Tigres to run through. So I'm hoping that Tigres keeps the same lineup and goes out there and goes for the attack, because as long as they score one away goal, that basically ends everything.
Well, where Rayados was getting beat at was their own game, and that was in the middle. If you looked at it, the majority of that game took place in the middle, and that's where Rayados usually likes it, and that's where the goals are getting scored on. And it was just bad counters all around. We can talk about Gignac, who's been on a tear, but the other guy, and he was, I think he was the man of the match, was Duenas, who, like I said, had that fourth goal that that kind of took away the luster of that one, but came out very early on and was just attacking. I mean, just what basically they did is they very effectively took Rayados' game and put it on top of them, and I don't think they just didn't know how to respond. And so, like I said, do I see it possible? I mean, of course, I'm going to go with my team. But as far as percentage chances, I mean, like I said, you're going to have what, a minimum 3 goals?
It has to be 3-0 in order for them to advance. But I mean,
3-0. And here's the deal: when you know that the Tigres, I have faith in my team. I do not have faith in them shutting them out. So, do I see Rayados winning and coming back and bouncing back from the loss? Sure, but a 3-2 win is not good. 3-2, 4-2. You don't have to do that. You can't allow any more goals. Yeah, that adds the number of goals you have to score. So if Tigres comes out right away and very quickly, like they did in this game, and gets up 1-0, okay, you got 4 goals to score. And don't let them score anymore. So it's going to be an interesting match. I do like for Rayados that they are going to play at home and have the crowd with them, but I think it's still going to be tough. But as tough as it is, it's not going to be as tough as Santos' battle is going to be against Toluca. Also this evening, they're the later game tonight at 9 o'clock. Reverse, guys. So if you're not familiar with Mexican playoffs, where you score your goals matters. You have more when you score on the road. That is worth more than scoring at home. In other words, it'll give you the edge in a tie in a situation. And so that's why it was a big deal. Yes, Tigres scored a lot, but they were in their home stadium. Santos was in their home stadium, and they only got 1 goal and allowed 4. Toluca, I mean, talk about, I guess they got their guys back from suspension. I guess that's what this team needed, because they came out, and then when I was looking at the breakdown of that game, it was right off the bat, it was dominating. It was dominant across the board. Santos got that 1 goal, but it was really, it wasn't as, it was kind of one of those give-me type goals. Yeah. So, I mean, do you see, is there really any chance at all for Santos?
Well, since it's a 4-1 and Toluca won on the road, all Santos really has to go do is go home and play defensively. They don't even have to go and attack, because they racked up those away goals that count more. So for Santos, I feel like Santos can get 1 or 2 goals and can hold down Toluca to 0, but I just don't see them. I just don't see them crawling out of the hole that they dug themselves in. I don't feel like it's going to work for them. They should have played defensively at home, but I guess this is what Toluca needed. They needed those players that got suspended for 8 matches, and now when they got them, Toluca should be happy that they came back during playoff time, and they came back and they showed them that they are those key players that they needed. Santos was playing very sloppy. It was just a sloppy game on their hand. If they do pull themselves out of this hole and do advance, it's gonna be crazy. I will admit that it's gonna be very, very crazy, and I will give props to them, but it's gonna be very hard. I don't see them crawling out of this one. I think them losing 4-1 at home, it's over for them.
It was also kind of embarrassing. When I was watching the game, it's even like their fans didn't even seem that, if they were into it, it's playoffs, but they weren't even like that crazy into it. And the sad thing is that they were in it going into halftime. It was only a 1-0 game at halftime with Toluca up, and so that has to be more frustrating for me if to get dominated like that, and if that happened in the second half in my home stadium, that's just unacceptable. And that's just ridiculous. And remember Santos was that attractive third pick for a lot of people when they were picking teams who was going to win this one. And I find it funny that that now they are here at the bottom. Now, if I'm correct, the winner of this matchup goes on because this is the 4-5 combination. They play the winner of 2-7, so they play the winner of Tigres. Don't they play the winner of Tigres Rayados, or am I mistaken on that?
I believe so, yes.
So this could be interesting because you want to pay attention that if that's the case, Toluca's going to be a handful. Even if Tigres continues to dominate, and even if Rayados pulls it out, if they have to go against a red-hot Toluca like this, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the second half. Because they are not a team that's predicted to be dominating. Okay, our two closer games that we have, like I said, home teams won, 1-0. We still have interesting matchups. Let's start with Atlas and Chivas. I picked Chivas in this. I thought that they could, pull it together, but I'm regretting my pick now because the one thing I was worried about the whole time was their offense, and their offense has just disappeared. I mean, it has completely vanished. I thought there was a difference between not having a lot of offense and having none, and they have no offense. So, I mean, with that being said, though, I will say this. I will give them the one of the things I said Chivas did have was an okay defense, and clearly they were able to hold Atlas to 1 goal. But once again, I don't care how good your defense is, eventually you're going to have to score goals. Do you see Chivas coming out of that, or do you think Atlas is going to be able to go in there and what kind of match do you see? Do you think this is going to be another 1-0 type matchup, or are we going to have someone break through?
I don't think it's going to stay 1-0 Atlas winning like that. It won't happen. Although, I will say that the environment is very different when you play in the Chivas Stadium. They're a bit more offensive. I'm still going to stick with Atlas because it's the same thing. Chivas has to go and score, so they're going to leave those open spaces for Atlas. That's the bad thing. So I'm going to stick with Atlas, but the environment for Chivas is very different at home. I feel like they play a bit more offensively at home, so I feel like Chivas can score like 1 or 2 goals, but as soon as Atlas scores 1, it messes everything up because that's an away goal. So I'm going to stick with Atlas on this one. I'm going to say that they're going to pass on to the next round.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be a flip-flop here. I'll stick with my original pick of Chivas. And like I said, just like with my own Rayados, I feel good that they're at home. As you said, the atmosphere is very different, and I do think it does play a role. I think that's a real thing. Okay, the one part we did agree on, and we got, and I think we're still sticking with our picks here. We have Monarcas getting a 1-0 victory. They do have to go to Tijuana now, which I know it sounds like me kind of being contradictory. I know saying that, the home field matters. In this case, like I said at the beginning, I said during the season, I don't think Tijuana is legit. I'm sorry if you're a fan of Tijuana, but I don't think they're legit. And I think that they win easy games like they're supposed to, but I think they are, in my mind, Class A choke artists. I'm sorry. They can't win when the spotlight and pressure's on them. And I think Monarcas, like I said, I said they're going to come in riding a wave. I mean, like I said, they literally snatched death out from the jaws of death. They've gotten out of regulation and find themselves in the playoffs. I think they have a lot to prove. I think Monarcas is going to win there. I think it'll be a close game. I think this one will be a close game, even though it's at home. But I think Monarcas is going to get another couple goals, 1 or 2, and I can see another 1-0, 2-0 victory easily. 2-1, low scoring, but I do see them pulling out the aggregate.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Monarcas on this one. I've seen it before with Tijuana, and I'm going to stick with like this little. We have this thing in Mexican League Soccer is if you're in first place, you're always going to drop out of the playoffs as like one of the first teams. So I'm going to stick with that, but I'm going to stick with Monarcas and say that even though it was a 1-0 win, I feel like they're going to go in and score 2 goals. I don't like making predictions on scores because, I mean, if I would have made them, because I thought Tigres and Rayados would have been a 2-1 game and it ended up being 4-1. So yeah. I don't want to make exact predictions, but I feel like Monarcas will go in and take the win. And again, Tijuana will fall 2 years in a row, and they're going to have to, if I were them, I would let somebody else be in first place and let them come in second or third because it's just not working out for them.
It's not working. Yeah. Well, like I said, that's our Liga MX wrap up. Like I said, we got Tigres and Rayados first game tonight, followed by Santos and Toluca. Tomorrow we'll have the Chivas last game, and then the round will finish up with Tijuana Monarcas. So we'll know by Sunday night who our 4 teams are advancing. Although we won't be doing a show, like we won't be getting together doing a show, we will come to you live individually on the Texas Soccer Live page. So probably Sunday night or Monday, probably each of us individually will upload a video with our thoughts on that round and looking at those 4 and give our picks. So just want to let you know that what we'll probably be doing, even though we're not going to have these full-on shows where we're talking about everything, we individually will come to you live on there and give feedback on stuff. Okay, last thing we want to talk about, we're going to bring it home and talk about the Dynamo, who your number 1 Dynamo, by the way. So if you guys are still being lazy, and I preach at you every single time I come on this show about getting out there and supporting your team. If you want to see them win, just go to a game here, because they haven't lost yet. They've had 1 tie and nothing but wins. And that is what is causing them to currently be number 1 in the West. 19 points scored. We're in week 10. We are approaching a critical part of the season here. And once again, the offense of the Dynamo is carrying them. But what's also getting my attention is they're now starting to win games, not just the offense, but they're starting to shut out people and keep them to 1 goal or to 0. And their defense, some of those guys in that back line are really starting to impress me. If we look at things going forward, first of all, offensively, I think there's no lie. Torres is one of the top goal scorers in the league now, 8 goals in 10 games. Quioto and Ellis, the Honduran duo, have a combined 9 goals. And then what's great about them is we have a reliable 4th man. Yeah. In that 4-3-3, Torres got hurt for a while, had to come out. Quioto got out for a while. And we had Manotas come up. And Manotas, he's rattled off 3 goals now, because he added another one last night. So we have a capable 4th man that we don't lose anything. What I think is awesome, it's like any sport. Your bench is what allows you to play the long game, the playoffs. And so it's, someone else is going to get hurt, going to get strained, they got to be sit. If we know we have reliable guys in that rotation, which we now have proven that we do, and which, by the way, Alex is up to 6 assists in the midfield. I mean, just amazing offense. I'm most impressed by what, in my personal opinion, with the Dynamo, is their learning curve. They are one of the few teams I watch that you can see them learning in the middle of a game. They learn, they adjust, they adapt, and then in between games, they're even better. Wilmer Cabrera has become a master, in my mind, of going back to class. When they're going, the practice field is his classroom, and these guys are listening. Because look, they face the number 1 team. By the way, Toronto is the number 1 team. They got Michael Bradley. A lot of American international guys, other international guys are on play for Toronto, and they're at 22 points, top in the East. They dropped a tough loss on the road to them, 0-2. Okay. They adjusted. They know what they did wrong. They got caught off guard. They had sloppy counters. They come back and they played the number 2 team in the East, Orlando, and crushed them 4-0. And that was without, I think Torres wasn't even playing that game. We were without one of our best guys. You then keep that momentum rolling. Vancouver, who's not a sloppy team, they're 4th or 5th in the West, and been hanging around, and have had success in international competitions as well, and get a 2-1 win at home. I think it's key they're at home, because here's the deal. They keep playing like this, they're going to have home field advantage in the playoffs. And if they're this good at home, then I'll be riding with them when we, obviously no matter what. But it's been hard to bet against them, even if you're not a fan. Now, what I think going forward is they have a critical road trip coming up. I say road trip because I know they'll come home between. They have 3 consecutive road games. Now, we'll get this back because in the summertime, this is great if you want to go to games. But I was looking at their schedule and saw it correctly. Later on, they will have, in July, late June and July, they have 3 or 4 consecutive home games. But they do have to go on the road against Philadelphia on the 17th next week. 3 days later on the road against Atlanta. They get 8 days off, and then we got a derby against Dallas. So we got a rivalry game going on there. They come home for 1 game on the 31st against Real Salt Lake, and then they go on the road to a big matchup against Seattle in a very hostile environment. This is a critical time. By the time we get to the end of that run, or at least to the next home game, which is May 31st, we're going to be a third through the season. We're going to be on Let's see, this week's 11, 12, 13. Yeah, we'll be 14 out of the 34 games. So we'll just over a third of the season through. And I think we'll know what they're made of. Like I said, these teams are playing, with the exception of Dallas, aren't difficult necessarily on paper. But I don't know what the deal is. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I know it's so cliche to talk about home advantage and how people, but it is such a real thing in soccer.
Yeah.
And more so than any other sport. And the Dynamo are proven. What do you think is the secret for them that they just are unstoppable at home, but are having it's not translating to the road? That's what I can't figure out.
Well, this is the offense that Dynamo needed for over like many years.
Yeah.
This is what they needed. I feel like they got the offense that they wanted, but I'm not gonna say it's bad luck on the road. I'm not gonna say it's that, but I feel like this 3-game road trip that they're gonna have on the road is gonna be a real test for them, and I feel like they just need to. What I feel like they need to do is to get in rhythm on the road. I feel like they get comfortable at home and they find a rhythm here, but I feel like them being on the road for 3 games is going to be very, very good for them, because they're going to find a rhythm, especially for not being home for 3 games. It's going to be a very good rhythm for them, and I'm hoping that they will be able to pull out all 3 wins, because if they do, that'll be very good, because then they found a rhythm on the road and rhythm at home. But I feel like they'll pull at least 1 or 2 wins, because, I mean, the teams that they're going up against, they're not pushover teams. These teams are very good. Of course, they have Seattle coming up. They also have Dallas, Atlanta, which is a brand new team that came in and has been blowing out teams. Mm-hmm. There's games where they get 6 goals. So I feel like it'll be a very good test for them. But what I feel like he needs is, what I feel like Dynamo needs is to get in a good rhythm away on different fields and see if they will be able to pull it out. And if they do, then they'll have the confidence to go into other games on the road, get in rhythm, get the points that they need, and then come back home and get those points. But I feel like they're doing very, very good right now.
Well, they don't have, and what's it's just fair, because I'm annoyed by it too as a fan. They don't, just to put in perspective, y'all, they don't have consecutive home games until August 26th and the September 9th games. Those are 2 consecutive home games. Do we have home games between? Sure, but not consecutive. Just to put in perspective for y'all, this is going to be tough. We have 3 road games. Come home against Real Salt Lake. 2 road games. Go West Coast. We're going to go to Seattle, and then another easy game against LA Galaxy. Come home. Oh, you get to come home finally. Oh, but it's against Dallas. And it's going to be a rivalry, and it's going to be nuts here. Which, by the way, y'all, if there's a game you want to go to, if you're a brand new Dynamo fan, FC Dallas game, the home FC Dallas game every year is one of the best ones to go to, because by that point we're looking at it's the second game of the 2 this year, because we played Dallas first, obviously, and now we're going to play here, and it's the rivalry game, in-state rivalry, obviously, derby, and it'll come down to kind of an aggregate sort of situation. We see who has the better points. So, for example, pay attention to that first game. If it ends in a 1-1 tie or a 2-2 tie or something like that, whoever wins this game gets bragging rights for the year. So that's going to be here on June 23rd. It's a Friday night game, so definitely worth going to. We go on the road against Colorado, and we come back home. So that's the one little home stand we get, is around the end of June and July, and there's still an away game in between. Road 2 games. And then we get a home game. Oh, it's against the Portland Timbers. I mean, it's just, we did not get the best schedule draw this year in terms of home and away and who we have to play. Like I said, not until August do we have 2 home games, and then we'll have another back-to-back home at the very end of the season with the Galaxy and the brand new Minnesota United. And we end, and if you want to see this, it's going to be interesting, because we'll be talking about playoffs at that point. In the fall, our final game is against Mr. Sebastian Schweinsteiger and the Chicago Fire here at home, October 22nd. So some interesting matchups in the future coming up for them. Like I said, I go back to what we said when we started doing these shows. I give Dynamo credit because they're going where the talent is. There has been kind of a joke developing. If you listen to the commentary, they say that we pretty much have the Honduran national team playing for us. And it's true. It's true. And they love it because these guys are getting to play together year round. Ellis and Kyoto are going to go play with each other for Honduras in the summer. And it's good for us, too. Because as these guys play against each other, right, they're getting better and better playing with each other. And it's awesome they're good players. I think it's just a bonus. I know people say it's a joke. Oh, you're just going to go rob the Honduran national team. I don't care. They're going to play. They're going to play good for them. They'll play good for us. Yeah. And the more you play together, the better you get. And like I said, I think the other big awakening is that Torres woke up this year. You know, I don't know where this guy came from, but Cubo Torres all of a sudden has said, "Oh, I'm going to play." The other thing is we've changed goals. Yesterday we had it was no longer we put our backup in. It was Joe Willis that we put in, who was the backup. And so we've made a switch at goal. And I don't know if that's had an impact. I haven't noticed. It was very quiet. They didn't talk about it when they did this. They've only put him in for a couple games now. And I don't know if that's going to be a permanent change. But it seemed to have had some product on the back line. I don't know if he works better with our back line or what, but there's been some whispering of changing goalies permanently. Anything else you want to say about Dynamo or anything else about just MLS? Like I said, I think it's what I do like in MLS is that everybody's still close. I mean, you look at the top teams in these conferences, and it is just there's no true separation. Yes, Toronto's has a slight lead, but in the West, I mean, we're from one down to 8. You know, everybody's within 9 points of each other.
Yeah. I feel like Dynamo is doing very good right now. They've gotten the rhythm that they've been wanting to get into. Although I do admit that they have some very, very tough games ahead. It's going to be a very good challenge for them. I mean, hopefully they can get into a hot streak of winning all these games, but it's kind of difficult to say that right now. I mean, you still have a long way to go in the season, and it's going to be the first time that they're playing these teams. They eventually have to play them again in the second half of the season. But I feel like this is a rhythm that they've needed for a very long time, and they finally got it. Their defense is very, very strong, but what I feel like is the key, what I feel like is the strongest point of Dynamo is their offense. They've racked up so many goals. They've blown out some teams. I mean, it may not be by like 8 goals, but I mean, they've shut them down to 0 goals, which I feel like is a blowout. Mm-hmm. They've showed up in very good key moments of the game, and I feel like this is what they needed. This is the offense that they needed for several years, and if they keep this up and they stay number 1, I mean, we'll be seeing them in the playoffs having home field advantage. And I feel like, and if they do have home field advantage, you see how they play at home. They get these wins, so I feel like they'll be able to advance. And it may be too soon, but I feel like this is the year that Dynamo can pull out a title.
Mm-hmm. And the last thing I just wanted to wrap up today with is I just found interesting comments that, Sebastian Schweinsteiger is the latest international player to come to the MLS. We were talking about the role of international players versus American players and what do you do for the league. And one of the things one of the comments he made, and I want to get your take, especially someone who follows Liga MX quite a bit, is the concept. He was talking about the importance of tradition. That what he says, he sees a lot of potential for the MLS, but one of the things that they can't control, and it's just going to take time, is time. That one of the things that makes Premier League and Bundesliga and La Liga MX so great is the traditions and the how ingrained it's become because of how long it's been around. And so I kind of agree with him. On one hand, I say that it's just going to take time, but on the other hand, he also kind of, on the other flip side, said that we need to make the league more attractive. He didn't really elaborate on that. That can mean a lot of things. I was wondering what your take about the importance of tradition in some of these leagues, and do you see the MLS being able to develop that like other leagues? Is it simply just going to take time, or is there other actions we can take to produce that tradition?
Well, tradition-wise that I've seen for Liga MX, Bundesliga, La Liga is they need to make a bigger deal about the rivalries in MLS. Yes. That's what they need to do, because in those other 3 leagues, rivalries are what gets people hyped. There's rivalries everywhere. So what I feel like MLS needs to do is that they need to hype these rivalries up. Like Houston and Dallas, when they play, hype it up. Get people to show up to the games. What I know in Mexico they do is they count how many rivalries they've already played. So if they were to play Dallas once, that'd be rivalry number 1, and you keep counting and basically have it yearly, and then hype it up even more. Even if they end up in the playoffs, hype it up more. That'd be a very, very good game. But I feel like on top of that, what they need to do is they need to get more exposure. They don't really advertise the games that much. Like, yes, you'll see a few commercials here and there, but they're not very exciting, attractive commercials. It's like, oh, come and see the Dynamo play, so and so team, and that'll be it. But when you see another matchups coming up, like for instance, a Clásico, Barcelona Real Madrid, you hear about that the whole week. Yeah. They advertise it the whole week. Same for in Germany, when it's Bayern and Dortmund. You hear about it the whole week. I feel like they just
Premier League matchups, even on our TV, you hear about it all the time.
Yeah, but what I feel like they need to do is the fans also, they need to get more interactive. Yes, there's some big fan bases out there for MLS, but they just need to get more interactive. They do get hype, I give them that, but they need to get more interactive with their team.
Well, so one thing Schweinsteiger said was that he said that European reporters didn't get, and he was trying to explain to them, is that the reporters thought he was saying that like it was a bad thing about our stadiums, and what Schweinsteiger was trying to say is because he said that everybody's nice, and like so what he was saying is he liked that because he was trying to illustrate that he was saying I'm trying to say that Americans love sports, and so it's a real positive atmosphere everywhere I go. They love the sports, but what the European reporters with him didn't get was that they're not used to fans being nice to each other. Yeah. You think about the other leagues, this is so intense. I'm not saying that we need riots in the stands and tear gas being thrown, and I'm not saying that. But there is something to be said about that. The songs that the other sides are singing at each other, that get into it. I mean, like I said, you and I can speak to it with Tigres and Rayados. That does it boil up sometimes and get violent? Sure. But that passion, it's like, I don't know. It just feels a little bit with American soccer, both with like as USA and MLS. It's like, oh, we're all positive, singing along. Hey, USA. Hey, there's no like just fire. Like we're better than you. We're gonna beat you down. And like that's intense. You see that in other sports. Think about when Houston and San Antonio were just playing each other. The rivalry in basketball like that. If you talk about just anybody, you just think about any rivalry. Texas A&M and University of Texas. Like, there's some nastiness there. And they go back, it's a little bit of bite. We're just too nice to each other in the MLS, and I don't get why,
there was 3 things that I feel like would get the MLS to where it needs to be. It takes place in the fans. One, what they do in all those other leagues is they travel for their teams. I know it takes money and time and all that, and it's very hard, but they travel for their teams. You see thousands of people follow those teams when they play away. So what I feel like they need to do is at least get together with a big fan base, plan it out, and say, look, we're going to get a few buses and we're going to go over there and we're going to go and watch the game and we're going to get our own section. That's what they need to do. Second, their fan bases need to get together and change these friendly songs into not like very like violent and all, but at least like talk some mess to them. Don't be friendly to them. Don't be welcoming. Scare them. You need to play a role in that. That's what they need to do. So change your songs up. I know Dynamo songs. I mean, if I could, I'd make some very very harsh songs for the opposing team. But that'll take effect in the game.
Yeah, to get in their heads.
Yeah, it'll get in their heads. And I mean, the MLS is not going to be able to shut down a song. They can't do that. You're being a fan. And
you brought up a good point, because one of the reasons the league has been too involved. The MLS has tried to control things too much while other leagues let it go. And that's happened before. There's been fan groups that have been shut down by the MLS because the MLS pressured the teams to do that. They are starting to open up. I mean, and we're going to see a big TV deals coming up in 2018. Like, they're starting to see that, hey, if we want to be like everyone else, we need to allow them to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and then the third thing, MLS, advertise these rivalries, create rivalries, get hype. Don't advertise it just one time a week or 2 times a week. Advertise it the whole week.
Yeah.
Start rivalries. Start counting the days. Start counting down. Hype it up the whole week. Like when Dallas and Houston play. Start counting clásicos for that. Call it a clásico. Get people involved, because the more clásicos you play, the more people are going to show up to the stadium. I guarantee that, because just like Barcelona and Real Madrid, the stadium is never empty. Why? Because it is so packed. And what they do, Barcelona gets their own section in that stadium when they go and play in Real Madrid's home. So what I feel like they need to do is they need to hype those games up. And the fans need to get involved too. What I know what they do in Mexico is that some of the big fan bases like Tigres, they have interaction with the stadium. They're let in hours before the stadium to set up. They set up banners, they set up everything. So what I feel like, it all comes down to the fan base that they have. Their fans aren't as crazy as the other fans in Mexico, Germany, and Spain. They're not that crazy.
And I think the more we get also get MLS clubs that get international competitions, that it also is that all these other teams around the world have fan bases outside their own country. And I think that's huge. I mean, what I was just going to point out, last thing I want to point out, be ready this summer. July 29th, they're going to have a Clasico match, Barcelona-Madrid in Miami. Watch that. That is a game in the United States with 2 La Liga teams. That stadium in Miami is going to be nuts. And it's not going to be a bunch of Spaniards flying over here. There's going to be Americans at that game. And that shows you how powerful their fan base is here. I'm not saying it's going to be a long, long time if there's an American team like that. But I'm saying getting across borders. And there's a reason European teams come over here and play on it, because they build up fan base. They do their friendlies. They do the preseason matches over here. We do it in other sports. Basketball plays matches in Mexico and China, and developing the game other places in the preseason. NFL's done that. So, like I said, there's a lot to be done. I think a lot of it is time, but I agree with you. There's a lot that we don't have to wait on, because we as fans can do a lot more in advance of league owners and club owners. Okay, I know we went a little bit longer than we anticipated, but this is going to be our last episode for a while, at least here in May as a group. But we will be coming to you periodically on the page. We'll do little live updates. Like I know on Monday, I'll come to you personally for like 5 minutes to give you my take on those 4 games, and Raul will come to you at some point and give our predictions. And then we will come back together some point in June for episode 5, and we will be talking. We're going to have an international focus for that one. We'll be talking about the new field for Champions League starting to emerge. We'll be talking about World Cup qualifiers and rosters. We'll obviously fill you in on how the Dynamo, our thoughts on how they survive this brutal road trip coming up, and go from there. Then after that, we'll be pretty quiet. So we get into a kind of a very nice time. It's a great time to go focus on the MLS and your Dynamo, because other leagues are done and everyone else is kind of some international stuff. So anyways, please continue to like, comment, give us suggestions, give us your feedback. We always like to hear from you. And we hope you always have a great weekend. A lot of great soccer, so don't miss out on it. Hope you all watch it.
Share the page. Please share the page. Like the videos, even if we're not live. Like the videos. Give us feedback, but really share the page. If you share the page and it gets out to other people, it really helps us out.
Yep.
So share it, like, comment, and that's it.
All right. You guys have a good one.